Hi. Um, this is my TED Talk on learning to be fine with being ordinary, looking to a radical unknown. This is me. I'm pretty impressive if I say so myself. I was my grandfather's first grandchild. I was my family's first British citizen. And I was the first in my family to get glasses. So I've broken a lot of boundaries. I have a lot more of accomplishments under my belt. I've climbed 2 mountains in Africa, one for charity, raising over £200. I and 2 other very impressive people organized a successful protest in support of Black Lives Matter in a mostly white English city. So, yeah, all of these things I think are pretty radical, impressive things. But these things and everything else I'm doing never really felt enough. They weren't really giving Karl Marx, Joan of Arc, Rosa Parks moment. It wasn't giving change the world, name in the book, super serious sociological shift type impressive. Being radical felt so special and serious and sophisticated that I could never really achieve it. It was like there was something I was missing, something I was lacking, something radical and magical even, an unknown. A radical something unknown. Something that other people that had changed the world had that I didn't. And I'll admit, thinking about this made me feel pretty small. So, picture this. I'm wallowing at the state of the world. I mean, off the top of my head, there's mass incarceration, the exploitation and violence against women, the impending environmental disaster, and, deepening inequality. So, pretty heavy stuff. And when I think about all these things, I just can't help but feel that everything I'm doing just won't be enough. Probably won't ever be enough. And, that's, again, very sad. But I take a pause. And in this pause, I think back to the summer when I read the Communist Manifesto, a revolutionary piece of literature and ideology, truly a game changer in the world. Yeah, sure. But when I think back, all I can remember at first is nothing. Then, after a lot of head scratching, that I didn't even like it. I didn't even like it. I didn't like how holier than thou it felt while trying to tell me it was the right argument. I didn't like how divorced from life as a proletariat it was while claiming to give the path to liberation. In that moment, when I put down the Communist Manifesto and I really didn't like it, something clicked. I realized that I didn't need theory and big brain ideas to change or challenge or confirm the way the world saw me and how I saw it. I realized that I didn't really like it. I didn't like grand, oppressive, immovable ideas like the Communist Manifesto. Instead, the things that stuck with me were kind of smaller, simpler shapes, almost ideas. Things so true and precise and sharp that they really make you think. Like the first time someone told me all food should be free. Yeah, the first time I heard that, my first thought was, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And thank God I didn't say that, because when the person explained how food is a necessity that we all need and that we should have access to everything we need to live life, and then when I thought about how silly it actually was to pay for fruit and veg that we all need regardless of the money in our bank accounts. And then when I found this really funny, army bases have fake supermarkets where they pay for food plus tax, but it's a fake supermarket on an army base. And then I realized this has gotten out of hand and I was actually the dumb one. And there's so much learning and unlearning I had to do from there. Other things that made me think was when someone told me, focus on what you can. And I remember when someone else told me, I choose not to drive. And I remember when someone else told me, everyone and everything has legitimacy. All these little things stuck with me. All these little ideas really, they shifted things for me. And I thought, let me take another pause. Because I think we all need to look to smaller, simpler ideas like these. Because it was thinking about these ideas again that made me take another pause. And in that pause, I thought about my concept of breaking boundaries, my ideas of changing the world. These little sentences, phrases, half ideas, almost ideas that really made me stop and think, yeah, they were the ones that made me realize I was already doing it. I was already changing the world. I just wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to the power in taking the time to educate myself, in taking the time to say, yeah, there's a lot I don't know. I wasn't seeing the power in deliberately shopping small, in finding people in my community to support in ways that they appreciated in a capacity that I could. I wasn't paying attention to the power in advocating for others, but in taking a step back in spaces that other people could use a lot better than I could. Because in some small way, these actions had broken boundaries. They had held that radical, magical unknown. These small actions might have bought a kid the footy uniform they needed for their game on Saturday. These small actions, I might have been the 50,000th signature on a petition going to Parliament for debate. In my desperation to have or be a part of a grand thing, I hadn't realized that I was already part of one. I'd been so absorbed in thinking of changing the world as something outside of me that I hadn't recognized that the world moves because of me, for me, and with me in it. A radical unknown, I think, is something that is anything, something, anything, everything that changes how you see the world. Because like those little actions, the weighty thing wasn't that they'd changed the whole world, but that they'd shifted how I saw others in it and what I owe to them. The radical unknown, which is anything, everything, that shows us what we owe to others, is in every action we do. And others can be your neighbor, or your milkman, or your donation to a mutual aid fund, or the kid in a refugee camp you send a shoebox for at Christmas. And so when I think about this, I'm trying to stop thinking about changing the world. Of 7 billion people and about thousands of years of histories and cultures. And instead, I'm looking to change my world. And that doesn't mean I've given up learning, because there's a lot of stuff, again, that I don't know and will probably never know to give up learning just yet. But as I have fun with learning, I'm looking to a radical unknown for inspiration. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.